The body, Paul Fisher, who's just produced a documentary called Radio Man, which is about. Have any of you guys ever heard of Radio Man? He's a homeless guy who turns up in like every movie ever made. So they went to New York and shot a documentary about him, and everybody's in it. Martin Scorsese, Josh Brolin, Tom Hanks, basically everybody that he's ever worked with. And he saw him indoors at Fright Fest, and he got in touch with me through a mutual friend. And originally the script was very, very ambitious. I mean, it's an ambitious project as it is. I remember in the first email he sent me, he said, "How much did you do him indoors for, and how long?" And I told him, and he said, "Oh, well, I'd like to make this for $7,000 and in 3 days." To which I laughed and said, "This is at least $10,000." So when he came back with 60, I was like, so yeah, and again, you know, it was just a case of the thing that was great about Paul was he never really. I mean, he didn't tell me that the book budget was $60,000. He just said, "Tell me what you need, and I will say no if you can't have it." So I did the shot list, and I was like, "Yeah, we want jib cranes," and that entire opening shot of the teaser trailer is just one long Steadicam shot, which is the opening of the movie. And there are a couple of epic Steadicam shots. In fact, the shot that we did after that, we storyboarded, and there was loads of like close cuts and this kind of stuff. And I'm stood there in the corner while they're setting up, and the DOP looked at me and went, What are you thinking?" I was like, "It's still on the Steadicam rig, isn't it?" I went, "Yes. Let's do this in one shot." He's like, "Fuck off. That means we got to light the hallway. We got to light the stairs." I'm like, "Yeah." And we ended up doing that, and it works a hell of a lot better. But the biggest problem that I've had now in the edit is that I'm having to be extremely ruthless, and we're cutting a lot because of these long-ass Steadicam shots that I insisted on. But it's been a lot of fun. In fact, it's not quite finished yet because we shot in the middle of Highgate Woods during our shoot, and we broke for lunch, and when we came back, we set up the shot, and the heavens opened up and didn't stop. So we've still got about half-day shooting left to do, but we now get a full day on it, so I'm quite happy about that. The reason that it's taken so long, because we shot that at the end of November, and the reason that we haven't shot it since is because one of the actors decided to cut his hair, and Alfie decided to dye his hair bleach blonde. So he's like, "Oh, but I've got a break in the middle of December." It's like, "Yeah, but how are we going to explain in the middle of the movie that you bleached your fucking hair?" So, the guy with the haircut, I'd actually, if it got to the point where we needed to shoot that, I'd actually written a gag, because it's set on Halloween night, and they're digging a body, that he got really hot and he pulled his wig off and whacked his brow with it and put it down. So that would have been fine, but there's no means for a hitman to bleach his hair in the middle of the woods, I'm afraid, so we've kind of had to wait. But you know, these things happen, and it's kind of been a blessing in disguise, because we've effectively cut the entire film apart from that scene. We played it for a few investors, and it's like they're watching it, and then all of a sudden a blank screen with missing scene comes up, which you know, kind of keeps the tone where it needs to be. My first foray into filmmaking was I made a feature-length documentary on the making of An American Werewolf in London, which we shot back in 2007. It was a pain in the arse to get released, but John Landis was really enamoured with it. The fact that we'd interviewed people that he essentially thought were dead since making the movie. So he really fell in love with it, and he championed it, and he said to Universal, he took the disc into Universal and said, "Put that on the Blu-ray." There were times where he said, "Well, what are you going to do with this? You don't have the rights to it. You know, you don't have the movie rights, you don't have the music rights. It's going to be very hard. It's going to be very difficult." And then he just called me up and said, "Yeah, it's on." Thanks, that was hard. So yeah, that's kind of where my background is, and that was the first thing I did. And I watched it again recently, just cringing throughout because it's so badly made. But makeup artists and horror fans really like it because it's fan made. It's not tainted by the studios or anything like that. It's just someone who loves the movie making a movie about the movie. On Him Indoors, we were very lucky because my producer James Pears, very, very enthusiastic, 21 years old, and he uses that to his advantage. He calls up all these companies and say, "Hey, want to sponsor us?" And they did. I mean, we got the Arri Alexa for 250 quid, which you can't complain for 2 days. So, but they didn't go for that on the body, which is why it's a 60 grand budget, essentially. But yeah, Arri Alexa. I honestly, I've shot on a Red, and now that I've shot on the Alexa, from doing Him Indoors on the Alexa, it was a no-brainer. I was introduced to Eben Bolter while in development on another project, which I'm no longer attached to, and he's just got a really wonderful eye. And I looked at his show reel. We talked. We're into a lot of the same stuff, and he just got it. He got what I wanted to do with both of the shorts. For Him Indoors, one of my ill-fated acting jobs, I met the producer on a short called The Other Side, in which I played a near 7-foot psycho. No idea why. I got talking. The producer really, he liked the fact that I was into horror movies to begin with, and he wanted to do something with me. And when I needed to make a short, I kind of just got back in touch with them. And as I say, with Paul Fisher, who did the body and who I'm working with on the feature, he saw Him Indoors at a festival and got in touch with me that way. The body, you can find out if you go onto Facebook and just search the body, it'll come up, along with searches for Al McPherson and many other things. You can follow it on Twitter at @thebody_film. Yeah, that's right, I think. Or you can just follow me on Twitter, which is @CastleAvoy. That one's easy.